All right, so welcome out to Sales Rich today. So today we're going to talk all about sales, salesmanship, understanding the process of how to sell, and a lot of times the mindset. Because it's what's really interesting is it's more about the mindset that holds more of the salesman back out there. It's amazing. I was just actually recently listening to a lady come and speak to us, and she talked about how working with Century 21. They're all salespeople and what's happening. And just by tweaking some of their thoughts in their brains and their processes there, they increased their business by 25% in 6 months. 25%, if you think about that, that's massive, right? Just through one psychological change of mindset around self-sabotaging what they were doing. Because we all self-sabotage. Everybody understand what self-sabotage is? Right, there's a whole bunch of different levels and ways to do it. A great book for you guys to go and get is this one, Stop Self-Sabotage, right? It's by Pat Pearson. Great book to actually go and get and understand that. But the idea is we have things in our brains and we have goals that we set, and for some reason we tend to sabotage them and we don't even know it, right? Do we resign from even doing it because I don't deserve that goal, or my dad told me I could never succeed, or people just say I'm a tradesman, right? Not a business owner, or a business owner or a tradesperson. We're just supposed to be dirty. We're just supposed to be out in the field. All this crap, all this talk, all these beliefs that we have, is what holds us back. Going, are you kidding me? No, we can do whatever we want to do, but we get that in our brains and then we start self-sabotaging ourselves to get any further. We procrastinate, we do this, you know. Some of them are just fatal flaws that we have, whether or not it's procrastination or perfection. Sometimes people need so much information that they just hold themselves back and they don't move forward because I need more information. That's self-sabotage, right? Some other areas are just denial in what's going on in your life, right? If you're in denial, you're saying, you know, I'm just going to put my head in the sand and it'll all go away. No, it won't. Right? And this is what happened when the economy started tanking. Everybody's just like, I don't believe it, right? I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing. No, you got to keep your head up and you got to deal with the stuff that's going on. A really big one that most people have, and I asked this to my clients this morning, and they talked about, one of the big ones was settling for less. You know, you set a goal for $1 million this year, and then you kind of halfway through the year, 3/4 of the way through the year, you're like, you know what, 900,000 is decent. I'm okay with 900,000. We just self-sabotaged 100 grand just by that settling for less. So think about it in your goals and what you're doing in your salesman. What are you, in your sales, what are you doing to self-sabotage yourself, right? My favorite one, and it doesn't happen too much, right, is throwing it away is what it's called. But the other quote is, you know, nothing fails like success. So think about that for a second. Nothing fails like success. So what do you guys think? What does that mean? Hurting your brains this afternoon, aren't I? Any ideas? What does that mean? Nothing fails like success. So what happens when you get successful? When you become successful, you become, what do you guys think? Are you comfortable now? Maybe get a little complacent, not be all on the ball all the time, get a little lazy, or maybe get a little prideful, a little abusive, you know, not in the abusive sense, but abusing what you have. A lot of times, you know, kids of parents that are wealthy start abusing what they have. Right? All these things, when you become successful, there's all these issues that comes with success. And if you're not watching it, you're going to fail. Right? It's that whole thing of people sometimes like chaos for some reason. They enjoy that chaos of, oh, you know, I'm just always running here or going there or doing this because they think it's productive. And unconsciously, they'll just continue to be in a chaotic mode because they think that's how business runs. The more busy I am, the more productive I am. No, that's not the case.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly, right? We need to work a lot smarter than harder, but it takes some time to think, right? Now, salesmanship is just the same. Be very careful because that is the #1 killer of most salespeople, self-sabotage. they'll go in before they even go in, oh, this guy won't buy. Oh, they think it's too much money. I better bend over backwards. I better give it for cost. Right? I better add in some stuff. I better actually do a little bit more. No, right? Oh, this guy, better really take care of him. No, that's the worst one. My client of mine went and did a favor to this guy. Said, you know what, we'll come in and we'll do this point, you know, and they spent 10 hours there, but he only charged them 2 because he was trying to be nice. And the guy's like, what's this bill? Well, we were out there. He goes, we was even 10 hours and we only charged you 2. Well, yeah, but you guys were just messing around. You couldn't find the problem. Yeah, but that's part of the whole situation. We need to find the problem to then fix it. Right? And you're going to pay for that because I have to pay for my guys for that. And you guys, you have to pay for yourself or pay for someone else to do that. And then what happened is the guy didn't appreciate the deal of the 10 hours to the 2 hours. He didn't really want to pay that invoice. And then he had the gall to come in and ask for another favor, and then he didn't want to pay that. Oh, I thought you were going to give that to me for free. You know? So this worst, there's a bad client that you shouldn't even have done with at the beginning, right? That you tried to be nice to, and he didn't appreciate it. He was a bad client. You never making any money, and you're just losing on that whole subject. So I said to my client, was it worth it? He's like, no, but I tried to get the sale. But why would you get that sale? Because it was a crappy client. You didn't make any money on it. What's the point of selling if you're not going to make any money on it? Does that make sense, everyone? Do we not all do that? A little bit. We try to get the sale, right? But are we making money on it? So let me just think. Anybody ever been to McDonald's? Everybody's been to McDonald's, correct? Right? And their whole saying is what? Would you like... Now it's like, would you like to upsize it? And now everybody's like, is that small, medium, or large? Because that's their way of upselling. So you get more money from the people that you're already working with. Okay? The more money you can get out of the people you're working with, in a value sense, you're not trying to sell snake oil to them, right? In a value sense, it makes you more money. But be very, very careful, because the reason why we usually don't do it is because of our perceptions of what a salesperson is, so then we don't sell. See, and this is the question today. Right? What more could you do? What more could you guys do? What more could you guys do, Jen? Right? Those type of things. What more can we add on? You're not going to sell fries with plumbing. You might. Would you like fries with that tap? No, of course not. But what could you add on? Could it be a maintenance package? Could it just be, I don't know, whatever. So throughout this day, I want you thinking about that. What more can I do? And what's holding me back from doing it? Right? Because we talked about self-sabotage. Well, our beliefs around salespeople is what self-sabotages ourselves. That make sense? Following that? Okay, good. So to get there, we need to be above the line. And we've looked at this statement, or we've looked at this video before, or sorry, this slide before. And we have the ownership, accountability, and responsibility up top here. You know, this is where we need to get up and above and get out of self-sabotage, which is down here. This is also working in the business, and this is working on the business. You know, it's around, have you ever met a 60-year-old that's immature? Think about it for a second. Have you ever met a 60-year-old that's immature? Think about it, though. Let me tell you my answer? Yes. I've met a lot of 50 and 60-year-olds that are immature. Right? Have you ever met a 15-year-old that's mature? Yeah, there's a lot of immature ones, but there's a lot of mature ones. What's the deciding factor of maturity? Is it age, or what is it? Pardon? Yeah, it's usually behavior. And what is the behavior around? I classify maturity as above the line. If you're truly mature, you take ownership, responsibility, and accountability of what's going on in your life. That's why 15-year-olds that are mature, their behavior is very much like that, correct? Whereas the immature ones that are 15, 16 or less make blames, make excuses. I can't, Dad, you know, I didn't get this, my blah, blah, blame, or just in denial and they're just running around with their heads chopped off. That's immaturity. But guess what? There's a lot of 50 and 60-year-olds out there that are very, very immature. Because maturity does not necessarily come with age. Maturity usually allows experiences to happen which teach us ownership, accountability, and responsibility. That makes sense, everyone? Right? So when you go back into your business, think about it. Are you mature or are you immature? Rather than just above and below the line, just think about that, of your maturity. And especially if you have kids, then you feel terrible because you're like, am I more or less mature than my kids? They have an excuse. They're 3 years old. You do not. You've had enough experience and enough knowledge now, especially, to actually move forward. Okay? So let's make sure we have some fun today and go through some of the things. But when we look at it, right, it's around what our perceptions are, and what we're focused on is what we get. So if you're focused on a whole lot of bad things, guess what you're going to get? And guess what you're going to see? A whole lot of bad things. If you're focused on being a salesperson that's slick, guess what you're going to get? A whole lot of slick salespeople. You know, or pushy salespeople, or whatever it is. Whatever we give our attention to and our awareness to, our focus is what we get more of. So, in that fact, give it to good things, and what are you going to get? Good things. If you put your awareness, you put your focus, if you put your effort on good things, you're going to get more good things. That's just what happens. It's a power of focus, and we can see it through that one. Okay? So what do you want from today? So I want you to take 2 minutes, sorry. Take a second, take 2 minutes, and actually write down what do you want to get out of today. All right. So complete USP and guarantee questionnaire. Define as best as you can your USP and guarantee, right? Define your ideal customers. Identify them of 80-20, right, where they're at. And then, you know, create some wow factors in your business and, you know, questions and answers so that you guys have. All right. So even salespeople find making sales a challenge, right? The professional ones. Like, don't think that just because you're not professional that it's harder for you. Right? Sales can be easy, but it's not the easiest thing out there. If it was, everybody would be doing it, right? And everybody would be really successful at it. But you have to continue to work on you to be a really good salespeople. So just remember that. It's not the easiest profession. But it doesn't need to be that way, right? Because when you actually know how to sell, right? And this is the simple sales process, okay? Talking about the basics. So what is exactly selling? Right? What is selling? This is how I and ActionCoach define selling. Professionally, helping others to buy. See how it's a switch there? Professionally helping other people to buy. That's what selling is. So what does that mean? Well, everyone loves to buy. Have you ever met a woman that doesn't like buying? Even men, you like buying. Everybody likes buying. You just don't like shopping. And when you don't like buying, it means you don't have any money, right? Or your wife's dragging you around and you're shopping. Everybody likes to buy, correct? Anybody fight me on that one? Everybody loves buying. People don't like to be sold to, though, right? Most people don't like to be sold to, which is that pushy, slick, right? So how do we get it? Well, we have to help people to buy. Right? So we have to look at it and say, okay, what do we need to do to help you buy? Right? So how do we do that? Does this make sense? I don't want to go into it yet until it makes sense for everyone. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, we have to understand there's 4 types of business people. Salespeople, sorry. 4 types of salespeople. Okay? You have the order takers, right? You have the product pushers, right? You have the oversellers, and finally you have the problem solvers. So order takers are my biggest pet peeve because they think, oh yeah, I'm a salesperson. No, they're not. They're just sitting there. People are calling them, and they're just taking orders, right? People at a cash register are usually order takers. But even in other companies, their sales staff, they're just coordinators, right? They're order takers, but they're just coordinators. They don't have to actually go out and try to make the sale. So they never learn the art, right, of true salesmanship. And so when it comes down to actually having to sell to someone, they're like, oh, but they're just not going with us. Well, of course they're not going with us because you're not just order taking anymore, right? And so we have to be very, very apparent of that. Product pushers, now we get the pushy people, right? Oversellers, now you get the slick people, right? You get those people, and we don't want to be those either. This is what we want to be right here. Problem solvers. Everybody has a problem. as a salesperson, sorry, you need to help solve that problem and help them to buy. Make sense? Everybody has a problem. And you're the answer to that problem. Not your competitors, you. You're the answer to that problem. You need to help them understand that you are their saving grace or whatever it is for the problem that they have. You're the problem solver. You need to get in and help them buy. So, how do we do that? Before we move on, I want to make sure that we have beliefs on track. So I want you to write down, we had one, very beginning. You can use that one still. Write down 5 beliefs you have about sales. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Write down 5 beliefs you have around sales. So our sales decisions, what are they based off? Because you got this Hyundai Elantra over here, and you got this Aston Martin Rapide, right? It's 4-door, really, really nice, right? So what are sales decisions based off of? Well, one is on logic, one is on emotion. That's not an emotional buy. That's a logical buy. This one is not a logical buy at all. That one's all emotional buy. Does that make sense? It's got 4 doors. You can put your family in there. We could get some stuff. Got good gas mileage. Yeah, it's logical, right? But see, the interesting thing is we tend to, and I'll get it to a point, right? We justify. And why do we justify? But let's put it. What do most people buy on, logic or emotion? What percentage do you think? 60 what?
60 emotion, 40 logic.
60-40, okay. What do you guys think? Just snap.
You can justify it in the end. And a lot of it's based on emotion.
Okay, good. Do you guys agree? Disagree? Agree? Jen?
I'd say 60-40, but the opposite.
But the opposite, more logic and more thing. It's interesting, men and women are a little bit different until you actually get down to it. And it's actually completely opposite. When you go in and buy it, it's 80% still emotion, but there is still a little bit of logic. Because you don't go in and just buy whatever you want. Or whatever feels good, you go in and buy. Because it's still, you don't have $300 million. So you don't care about money. Right? It still has some logic on why do I really want this, need this, or can I afford this? That's where the logic comes into place. Right? But we tend to start with emotion. It's a more of an emotional buy than it is not. For instance, gum by the counter becomes very, very emotional because everybody's screaming. A person buys 80% emotional, 20% logic on a purchase. Right? It kind of incorporates both. But it's always leaning towards this. So the more that you can lean it towards this, that's how these guys can sell that. Right? That's how they can sell it. They make it sexy, and it's all emotion, and the advertising is all emotional. It's not, they don't go, if you ever saw like a Aston Martin magazine ad or a TV ad, what do you think it's going to say? This car gets amazing gas mileage. You can fit luggage in here. No, they don't. They say they'll have a guy pulling up to a really nice hotel, getting out, nice lady getting in, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, and we can fit the 2 kids. Doom, doom. And they drive away from this really fancy hotel in New York. And that's it. Doesn't even have to say anything. And in our minds it goes, wow, elegance, prestige, going into a big one, in a suit and tie, sitting in with a gorgeous wife, and then they add a little bit of a, that's actually not a girlfriend, boyfriend, that's husband and wife, and they have kids, so the 4 doors come into place. Goo, goo. I should be a marketing guy. Right? But you see how it is, and then it's emotional. Take off. It's all about prestige and pride there, and being able to throw your kids into. Right? It had nothing to do with logic. Just watch an ad, any ad on TV. Right? And it'll get you emotionally at more than it will logic. And the motion could still be humor rather than logic too. Make sense? All right. So what makes you a professional salesperson? So in sales, right, for you, you need to do training. Sales just doesn't come easy. You got to learn it. Right? Some people it comes more naturally too, but you have to learn it. So you got to do some training on it. Now training could just be coming today. Training could be getting a book on it. right? You should get Jeffrey Gitomer's Little Red Book of Sales, or his Sales Bible, or other sales, Zig Ziglar's sales book, great one. Right? All those ones are really, really good. So training is the number one, and to become a really good salesperson, you need to continue to train, right? Number two, communication. Communication is the key to salesmanship. If you can't communicate well, you can't communicate well, right? You're not going to get that emotional across. The last two are NLP and DISC and VAC. So what the heck is all that? NLP is actually neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro-linguistic programming, well, what is that? Neuro-linguistic programming is actually a science of understanding of how people's brains work. We won't get into a whole lot today. The big difference is, for you guys, is to match and to mirror. Right? So in a salesperson, if I'm coming in to sell you, Kelly, and you're a quiet, soft-spoken person, and I'm in there talking like, all right, Kelly, we'll take care of that for you. And we'll get it. How's that feel for you? It sucks, right? Intimidating. Oh, back. But if I came in and as a salesperson, maybe I am loud and aggressive, but I come in, Kelly, and Kelly's talking, I'll actually, start, all right. I'll usually get down, sit down to his level. If he's arms crossed, all of a sudden get very comfortable, and because he's comfortable, I don't need to be up in his face going, all right, we're going to do this, okay? You need to lean back to him, and then I match and mirror him. So if he's quiet and soft-spoken, then I become quiet and soft-spoken, right? Because people act the way that they want to be treated. Does that make sense? Right? Because people's brains work that way, and they like things that are very, very similar to them. Okay? Does that make sense, everyone? Yeah. So if you're talking to a lady, and she's very, very dominant and aggressive, you actually need to pick up your speed and be a little bit more dominant and aggressive. Right? And that happens all the time. But if you just like, sure, man, we'll take it. No. They say, get to the point. What is it? How much does it cost? All right, sure, not a problem. Well, we have this, how much does it cost? Good, you ready to go? That's all you got to do. And they're like, yeah, sure, send the papers here. Perfect. You don't have to be chatty and talkative because they don't want to be chatty and talkative. And this is a big one for you in construction. You have to match and mirror whatever they are, right? Unless it's swearing. You don't have to swear like them, okay? But if you match and mirror with them, they'll get it. But if you come in as timid, then you lost it. You're no longer matching and mirroring them. The other one is DISC and VAC. DISC is just a personality profiling of understanding people. D is dominant, I is influence, S is steady, and C is compliant. You don't have to dive into all this stuff. If you want to learn more about it, I have a big, massive document I can email you. So if anybody wants that, tell Stuart, and I'll get it to Stuart. Big, massive DISC and VAC document that explains everything about personalities, about people, right? Influence. S is steadiness, C is compliant. So what the heck does that mean? You're a D, he's an S, right? He's also an S.
What's a D?
D is dominant, okay? S is steadiness, he likes routine, he doesn't want to get pushed out of his comfort zone, he's not a big chatter, he's not a I. I is the chatty, influential, get out there, rah, right? S is steady, stable, great team player. Okay? C is very compliant, analytical, lots of numbers, right? Very detail-orientated. D is dominant, go. So when you get a D and an S, that's why we still have opposites attract, right? Opposites still attract because we balance each other out. But by understanding the opposites, then we need to actually understand ourselves so we can actually work better together, right? Because opposites are better, right? Because if you get two dominant people, then you just get a lot of this, right? But if you can actually match and mirror, it becomes a lot better. So it's the same thing in sales. And you don't have to understand specifically DISC. You just have to understand people have different personalities. And you just got to understand the personality. And the best way to do it is just match and mirror them. So if they're very chatty, you got to be chatty with them. If they want to talk all about their friends and their family, talk all about their friends and family. But if you know that they're a dominant person, don't talk about their friends and family because they don't care. Right? Just get to the point. What is it? Done. Yeah, move on. Right? But if they're compliant and you know they're a little bit slower, that means they're a little bit slower and they need a lot more detail and a lot more information. So make sure you give that to them as well. Does that make sense? It's just understanding people's personality. I can go.
Back.
Back is visual, auditory, kinesthetic. It's how we learn and communicate with people. People need visual. That's why I always have a PowerPoint, auditory, and kinesthetic. I usually get people up doing things and stuff, and that's why we have colors, markers on the thing, because it's very kinesthetic, right? Changing colors, it helps us learn a lot better. So visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, you have to understand people. That one takes a little bit because you have to actually listen to what they say. So if someone says, oh yeah, I hear what you're saying, they're auditory. Or what if they say, oh, I see what you mean? They're visual, right? Or I get ya, they're kinesthetic.
Really?
Yep. Okay, it's amazing once you actually learn about it and the process that's going in there. If you can understand the wording people use is what they actually are. And if you can learn it well enough, now you're a salesperson. So really good salespeople know that stuff, and they can use it against you. But they're trying to help you buy. Yeah. But you can do it properly, right? If you do it properly, it doesn't come across as slimy because you're just trying to help them buy. Right? But yeah, people abuse it. Absolutely. Okay? So, but that's what people use. Understanding people is kind of the key. 4 steps of learning. We start off with unconscious incompetence. Okay? Next one, everybody read this one. Conscious incompetence. Okay, everybody's writing it down. Never mind. I always get this. Like, read this one out. And everybody's like, what? I'll read them out. Conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence. These are the 4 steps of learning. So what the heck does this all mean? Well, you take a baby. Do they know that they don't know how to tie their shoes? No, they have no clue. They are unconsciously incompetent. They have no clue that they don't know. Unconscious incompetence. Right? Even my 1-year-old. He has no clue he doesn't know how to tie his shoes. Nor does he need to for right now. Consciously incompetent. All right, so my 3-year-old. She knows that she doesn't know how to tie her shoes. She knows it, but she doesn't know how to do it yet. So she's consciously incompetent. Make sense? Then you move up to conscious competence. So this is my 5-year-old. She's consciously competent. She can tie her shoes, but she has to think about it. Right? Conscious this, around the tree, back down to the rabbit hole. Whatever. You guys ever use that? Teach kids how to tie their shoes? No? Am I the only weird person? All right. The rabbit goes around the tree, makes a loop, goes down the hole. Anyways, tell ya, son of bears. Anyways, it's how you tie your shoes. But they have to be consciously competent in what's kind of going on. The last one is unconsciously competent. Do you think about tying your shoes, or do you just do it? Right? You just do it. You're just unconsciously competent now. And you're like, whoa, that was, if you think about it, that's not the easiest thing to do. Right? But now it's so unconsciously competent that you're just go and do it. Now, that's the area of learning, and you add one more on the top, which is conscious incompetence. So you want to get to a point where you're unconsciously competent, and then you want to push yourself to be consciously incompetent of something. Right? You have to know that you don't know something. So for instance, that's why you guys are here today. You are consciously incompetent about some stuff. Maybe it's salesmanship, maybe it's business, maybe it's numbers, maybe it's marketing, whatever it is. Right? You guys are consciously incompetent, which is good because then you just go back down into the learning, right? Back on here, and you're going to become consciously competent and eventually unconsciously competent, where all this stuff just kind of flows out of your brain. My wife always looks at me and laughs. She's like, where does that stuff come from? Because everything just pours out of my brain now, in my mouth. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just in there now, right? There's a lot of stuff that I'm very unconsciously competent with, right? And she's like, how do you even do that? I'm like, I don't know. Just dumped a whole bunch of stuff in there. Now, there's a lot of things that I'm very consciously incompetent of as well, right? And those are the things that I'm working on. Those are some of the goals and the things that I need to do. But we need to realize that and move forward. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, that's the cycle. We need to grow and understand that cycle and be okay and be patient with that cycle. Right? We have to be patient. We can't just get frustrated that we don't know everything yet. Just be patient and it'll come. Okay? So we talked about this last time, I believe. We talked about IDA last time, right? Attention, interest, desire, action. We talked about this last time, right? Yes. Some of you? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
IDA, 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 IDA. Attention, interest, desire, action. I think we talked about this, right? Anyways, if not, we're talking about right now. Apparently you don't remember either. Attention, interest, desire, action. Everything starts with IDA. When we're doing marketing, when we're doing sales, when we're doing anything, IDA, that's how I come up with IDA, by the way. Attention, we need to grab someone's attention, okay? Grab their attention, right? Attract them, gain their interest, get them to desire, and finally get them to take action. Okay? So that's attract their attention, gain their interest, stimulate their desire, right? And then lead them, or which leads them to take action. Right? Attention, interest, desire, action. So in your sales process, when you're actually writing out your sales process and mapping it out, going, what are all my touch points to all my clients? Like, how many phone calls do I make? When do I take the quote in? What am I doing? Right? There should be key points of how you're going to grab their attention, pique their interest, stimulate their desire, and get them to take action. And you have to take this and overlay it on all the stuff that you're doing. Does that make sense to everyone? Right? When you're thinking about it, going, all right, Stonewalker said I have to get their attention somehow. Okay, so we got their attention. Now, how do I pique their interest? How do I stimulate the desire? Well, this comes with emotion, right? And then how do I close? How do I get them to take action? It could be a script. It could be whatever, right? But it has to be built in there, okay? Now, the nice thing about this one is great salespeople have a purpose, okay? So you focus on your prospect, not your product, and you'll always come out in front. So what does that mean? You should have a purpose of why you're doing it. Selling whatever should be as easy as selling chocolate, right? Because selling chocolate, people love chocolate. So why don't people love what you do? They should love what you do, because if they don't, you either have a bad business or you just haven't positioned it right. Because if you have a product or your service, you have to get it to a point of understanding, why would this customer want this? And if you can get it and understand it, you're going to help them buy it. Because they must and they need you. Your service, your product, whatever it is. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Okay, so great salespeople have a purpose. Now this is the problem solver. Remember, we're always trying to be a problem solver. So the problem solver's best weapon are questions, right? You need to get your prospects to sell for you. So how do you get your prospects to sell for you? Well, you ask them a whole bunch of questions. My favorite one is like home and garden trade shows or anything like that. Trade shows are always fun. Were you in the trade show? Yeah. Okay. Which is fine. I don't blame you. Yeah. I don't blame you. You got to make it a good return on your investment. So when we're looking at this, right? Trade shows, it's always funny. So someone comes up to a booth, right? And what usually happens? Tell me what kind of happens at a trade show. The customer comes up and does what? They ask a question, usually in a trade show. And then what happens? And the person in the trade show booth answers the question. And then the customer asks another question, and that person answers that. Good. Who's in control of that conversation? Who? The customers, right? And at the end of that time, they go, okay, perfect, thanks, I'll see you. And what are you left with? Nothing. But you just gave and gave and gave and gave all the right answers. So why are you left with nothing?
You should try asking questions.
Yeah, the person that asks the question is the person who's in control, right? The person that asks the question is the person in control. So this is what it actually looks like, okay? You need to ask the question, they give an answer. You ask another question, they give an answer. You ask another question, they get an answer. Well, most times people quit right after this. As soon as they get an answer, they like pounce on it, right? Oh, they answer me. Good. Grab it. Yeah, we'll answer, and we can do this and this and that. No, 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 not yet. Ask more questions. The more questions you ask, the more knowledge you have to help them to buy. Right? Ask another question, answer, and finally, they ask you a question. And you give them the answer, and the answer is, sure, when can we come and nail that down for you? Right? Or please sign here. And we'll take care of that for you. So let me give you an example of a trade show. I come into your booth, right? Actually, you come into my booth. Say that, Troy. You come into my booth and you say, so okay, what's this thing about the, this air conditioner over here? I'm like, okay. Now, typically I would just, oh yeah, this is the greatest air conditioner, and it does this and this, and it has all these electro fans, and it's great on gas, and they're like, oh cool, yeah, thanks, and then you walk out and go to the next one. But if I go, and this is the key here, I'm like, wow, you know what, Trevor, that's a great question. You know, in order to make sure that I understand you so I can help you best of facilitating for you, would it be okay if I ask you a few questions? What are you going to say?
Sure.
Of course. No one ever says no to that, right? You're like, oh, perfect, well, good. So, you know, what are you looking for? Are you looking to put it in your house right now? You know, and he says, oh, yeah, okay, good. So do you have one right now? No? Okay, okay, so this is a new install? Yeah. Well, what are you looking for? How big is your house? Oh, it's this big. Okay. It's because in my back of my mind, I'm going, all right, what are all the things I need to know to put them perfectly onto the right product for them? What size air conditioner? You know, what's their house? Is it new? Is it old? Do they have one? Because if they have one, then how can I, oh, so which one do you have right now? It leads me on to different questions. Oh, this is brand new? Good. So, you know, are you guys really hot? Like, do you have a really hot, and then I get to emotion. Oh, it's just your wife must love that, right? Oh, does she really want the air conditioning? Oh, yeah, she really wants air conditioning. I'm like, yes. As soon as I hear stuff like that, instant emotion and attack. They're mine. As a salesperson, they are mine because I found emotion through questioning. And I'm like, oh, perfect. So when are you guys thinking about installing it? They're like, well, I'd like to get it this year. Okay, well, like in the next year because, you know, it's going to be hot season and everybody's going to be booking in right away. So do you need it like in the next month? Well, maybe. Good. So what budget do you guys have to put in? Because if they have I have $3,000 budget or I have a $1,000 budget, all of a sudden I have my options of what I can sell them to make sure that I can nail them down perfectly. Because if I come in and just, do you have financing, right? Absolutely. So do you have budget? Oh, no. Good. But all those things are in my head as I'm coming out, and then finally you say, do you have financing, which means you're almost ready to buy. All right, perfect. Well, let me figure that out for you. I mean, we can have this option that would fit perfectly in your budget. You know, financing, we could take care of that as well. We're easily coming in. We need to make sure that we book it in the next probably 3 weeks, though, because if not, you're looking at end of August, because we have a lot of people booked in already. You know, we're looking at end of August. So to make sure that you take care of your wife, because I'm sure you don't want your wife to, would it be all right to put you into this book right now and get down your name and number right now? Awesome. Right? Do you see how it just, so who controlled that conversation? I did. Did I get all the information I needed to make sure I made that sale? Absolutely. Through questions. Right? And I'm sitting there going, all right, where am I going to lead him to? How am I going to get all the things that I need to know to make sure that I can make this guy buy? But I'm going to help him, because if I said, sure, that's a great product right there, and he's like, oh, cool, yeah, yeah. In back of his mind, he's saying, that's too big. That's too expensive, right? I don't need that one. And I'm just talking it all up because it's awesome. Well, I'm not helping them to buy, right? By asking him good questions, I know he doesn't want that one. He wants this one over here. This is what he needs. And by the way, this one we can install it right away because we have a shipment coming in. We're going to take care of your wife, because that's the most important thing. Because why is he here? Not to get an air conditioner, so he can get his wife off his back, because she's tired. And I speak from experience because my wife was pregnant, had her baby in July 14th. And it was that 5 years ago when it was wicked hot. We didn't have rain on the west side for 4 months. I know because I had water like every day. 4 months, not one drop of rain. Okay? And it was so hot, and she was dying because first of all she was pregnant, and then new kid and a baby, and you know how hot it gets holding the baby, going die. She's like, I need air conditioning now. And so we got one. In August, I was the hero. It's good. It's the hero, right? But it's an emotional buy. Does that make sense, everyone? So how can you use questions, and hopefully there are some BFOs in there, right? How can you use questions in your businesses to better prepare and to better sell your product? Right? Because if you're just going to answer all their questions, you don't know what they want. And you're not helping them. So in order to help you best, would it be okay if I asked you a few questions? That is your key script, key phrase that you should all write down. I think it's actually in the slides coming up. I can't remember. I don't know if I took it out of this one or not. Yeah, I think I took it out. In order to help you best, would it be okay if I asked you a few questions? Now, make that your own, change it around, use it, but the whole premise is there. You know, not a problem. It's a great question. Would it be all right to ask you a few questions? I mean, it could be simple as that. And the thing is people call you up on the phone. You can do the same thing. It doesn't have to be a trade show booth, right? I mean, you guys all do it. If you need new tires, do you call around? So you guys got tires in? What's your best price? Good. Call the next one. What's your best price? Oh, what's your best price? You call all these places, and then you compare on price and availability. But if you called one of those tire places and they say, oh, well, could I ask you a few questions to make sure that I can get the proper tire for you? You'd be like, sure. And then that guy starts rattling off. You know, what's it for? What type of driving do you do? Is it more highway? Do you get a lot of snow? Are you in the mountains lots? Right? Do you need, because in the back of his head, do you need studs? Do you just need regular winter tires? Do you need steel rims? What type of rims do you have? Do you want to put them on rims? Do you want to put them on your existing rims? All those questions. And I'm sitting there going, holy cow, this guy knows his stuff. So when it comes down to it, even if they're a little bit higher, guess who gets the job? He does. Whereas if he just gave me the price, guess who gets the job? The cheaper guy. And the thing is if you go to a restaurant, how many of you really want the waitress to tell you what to order? Especially a new restaurant. What do you feel? Everybody follow me on this one? If you go to a restaurant and you have this big menu, you're like, what's it?
You always ask.
You always ask. So what's good? Or you look around. Right? And you're like, oh, that looks good. What is that? You know, I'll have one of those. Right? Because you want people to help you to buy. Because you don't know what's going on. So the more helpful that you can be, the more money you're going to make. Does that make sense? Any questions on that one? Is that not just awesome? I don't know about you guys, but I think it's just awesome. The concept is really driving it home and really helping people. Okay? That's when the sale happens. Now we won't watch that video. Okay? Old selling versus new selling. Okay? So we got rapport, we got the selling aspect, and we got the follow-up. This is old selling, whereas there was no rapport, heavy push selling, slick, all that stuff, and no follow-up. That's not how we sell anymore, right? New selling is all rapport, so you don't have to sell, and then you have to do a whole bunch of follow-up to make sure you create a raving fan. Right? So it's all the positioning up front, preliminary stuff, so you don't have to do a hard sell right in the middle. That makes sense, everyone? And at the end of the day, boom, there's the follow-up. Okay? Any questions on that one? You can write that one down. Good. Follow-up. And then it's just the two diamonds opposite. Okay? Now, question funnel. This is the key slide in this entire set of slides. Okay? Has a whole bunch of information, but it's the questioning funnel. So I want you guys all write this down and understanding how do you get people through your questioning funnel. Now I think about this, and I actually had an idea the other day. I wanted to go and take this slide and just overlay it onto Head Smash and Buffalo Jump. Anybody ever went to Head Smash and Buffalo Jump? You ever been? No? You guys been? Yeah, Jen? A long time ago when you were at school? Okay. Head Smash and Buffalo Jump. It's like there's only a few places in the prairies that can actually do it, because what happens is you have to have a big congregation of buffalo in a nice field that you can easily kind of get them spooked and start running up in this area, and then natural formations help kind of form a little bit of a barrier that they can't get out, and then they have to be able to run and have enough room to run, and then coming up and over and then looking down on a prairie, and they have to feel like they can keep on running out into the field or the prairie and just go forever. And if you guys remember that, that's how it's actually done. Then what the natives did is they built fences to funnel them in tighter and tighter and tighter, you know, as they were going slowly in, and they had people kind of shoving them in and getting excited. So they went faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until at the very end they realized, I'm not running onto the prairie, there's a big cliff here, and over they went. Right? That's the whole process. Well, that's salesmanship. Right? They are selling the buffalo.
Until there's a cliff.
Right?
Boom.
Boom. Gotcha. And stab.
Yeah, totally.
Lock them in. But is it not the same? It's the same thing. You got them all down there clubbing them, making sure they're dead. Closing that sale off good. That's right. Can't return them. But see, now sales funnel.
Yeah, you're really changing. Changed my impression. Yeah.
Not at all, right? Not at all. Right? But think about it. Now it's locked in, the sales funnel. You got to get people down, and there's a huge process. Right? That's what's amazing about the head smash and buffalo jump is it's a huge process. It was perfectly designed out of all the prairies to find it in here, to actually lead them through, to get them through a process. Until it's done. Right? Well, that's what it is here. We start off with open-ended questions. Okay? You got open-ended questions. Everybody know what an open-ended question is? You might not be perfect at it, but a question that doesn't lead to yes or no. Right? So, what's an example of open-ended question?
How big is your house?
Big.
That was a yes and that wasn't.
Right? But think about it, right? What is an example of an open-ended question? I just did it, right? That's the question. There's no yes or no. What is an example of an open-ended question? That's an open-ended question. All right? It lets you to think, and you can't come back to me with a yes or no. Right? Do you need plumbing? Yes. Okay. What is the number one, or what are some of the issues that you're having with your plumbing right now? That's an open-ended question. They think, well, I have this and this and this. You got to get people to start talking about their situation, okay? Or open-ended questions. Okay? Open-ended, then we get into more specific stuff. So open-ended are just very, very big and broad. You know, so if you're asking someone, you know, what are you trying to use this product for? You know? Or do you have any requirements that you need me to understand? That's a no. That's a yes or no. Right? What items or requirements do you need me to understand before I do my job? Right? Then they say, oh, well, I need to make sure that I have my car back by, or my vehicle back by, that type of stuff. And then specific is just more detailed stuff. Okay, so I understand you want this. Okay, when do you need it done by? Now we can get into the yes or no's or the very specific answers. Okay? Then what happens is we create solutions. Okay? Like I said, from all my questions, I could come up with 2 or 3 solutions that would be best for what I think you'll need. Right? Then I check your temperature. And finally, I get into the details. So I'm not trying to drop them off the cliff yet. Right? But solutions, temperature, and then detail. So what does that mean? I give you solutions after I get all this stuff. I give you 3 solutions, and then I check your temperature. And I will give you some ideas, but a little bit later. But checking your temperature is like asking, you know, from what these 3 options, what do you, you know, which one of these 3 options, which one of these 3 options fits best with what you had in mind? Is a temperature check. Right? Because I'm just assuming that I've answered all or understand all your questions, and I'm just saying these are the 3. If I give you 1, that's not a solution. That's just 1 item. If I give you 2 options or 3 options, now I can kind of catch your attention, and this is what trades tend to miss, is because they just give, here's the price, here's the idea. Yeah, but what more is there? You know, if we didn't hit them perfectly on their budget and perfectly exactly where they wanted, we don't have any leadway of up or down. We can't get more money, we can't get any less money. We should always come in there with, these are some 3 options. Which one do you think have in mind? Because I'm like, I really like that one, but I don't like that color. You know? I really like you to spray foam my house, but can we do the top floor and then this? Right? Or whatever the solution is. But if you just go all in, they're like, it's too much. Done. Then you're hooped. Right? You can't do it. So you got to temperature check them, and then you get into details. So once you temperature check, then you get like, all right, perfect. Let's go into details, and then that's where you close the sale. Lock it all down. Right? Okay, good. So you're coming in on this time. We're going to do this, this, this. Yeah, is that what you had in mind? Good. Perfect. Let's sign the papers. Skin out the buffalo. Make it happen. That's awesome. So a couple things on the side. So some of the questions that we use, we need to start with who. Who, where, what, when, why, and how. Now we all say, oh yeah, those are just questions. No, 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 no. Who questions, where questions, what question, when, why, and how. And that's the pattern you need to follow. Okay? So when we're looking at these ones, let me come over here. You have, who's involved in this? Where are we going to do this? What do you want me to have done? When do you need to buy? Why are we doing this? And how would you like me to fulfill it? Right? You go through all those processes and nail those down on all those questions. So if you can build questions in your sales funnel to give you just an idea, and you need to preliminary do them before you get there. Write them all down. I have hundreds of questions that I use in coaching, right, and use in sales, and I just go over, I went over and over and over and over all those questions, so now they're locked into my brain. So they just come out whenever I need them. Right? I can't think on the moment good questions. You need to come up with good questions before you ever walk in. So that's going to be part of your homework, that you need to come up with questions for your sales funnel. Right? Come up with good questions and start identifying your sales funnel and your sales process. I'll explain that a little bit later. The other big aspect is you need to play dumb and dig deep. So what does that mean? We're too smart for our own good, is what actually happens. So you ask a question and you know the answer. Right? Anybody ever watch The Hobbit? Or have you guys watched the new Hobbit show? Right? No, it's actually Gollum. It's like Shmuel. It's not like Gollum. And what's funny is, anybody know about The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings? Anybody know Gollum? All right. Anyways, he's this creepy dude, and he's got a split personality. One's Smeagol, one's Gollum, and they kind of go back and forth, and he argues with himself in the movie, right? He's like, no, don't do that. Why are you telling? Oh, we need to eat him. We got to eat the. Anyways, you have to watch the show to really understand it. But he's got a split personality. And so they're playing this game of asking riddles. And so the one guy asks the riddle, this and this and this and this, and this is the riddle. I can't remember the riddle. It's kind of in depth. And I don't know if you remember the part. He asks the riddle, and then all of a sudden you see his eyes change, which means he flips personality. He goes, I know the answer, but he's trying to trick the other guy, but he's trying to answer his own question, right? Because we think we know more, or we do know more than what we should know. So that's why we need to play dumb sometimes and dig deep. Don't come back, don't ask one question and then just try to solve their problem. Ask a whole bunch of questions and just play dumb. Just, oh, really? Okay, good. So why else do you need this? What's your budget? Like I did with the air conditioning, ask a whole bunch of questions. Then you can dig as deep as you can to find emotion. Then you can make the sale. So, some question softeners. These are some 3 question softeners. Can I just ask, by the way, or incidentally? I'm just giving you these things to, when you're going to ask questions, you just have to soften sometimes, because sometimes personalities come across a little bit differently when you start just blasting them on a question. Why are you doing this? What are you doing? You're just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Do you get what I mean? Like if you're asking too many questions, people start going, whoa, back off. You're asking me way too many questions. So you have some of the softeners, which is like, can I just ask? Right? Does that make sense? Now, this is a fun one, because everybody thinks this. Your prospects, your customers, your clients are always, always thinking this. So what's in it for me? Right? What's in it for me? That's always on their brain. So like I said, if they're coming and asking for an air conditioner, and all they're thinking is, what's in it for me? I want that. And you start spouting off all your answers, they're just like, no, that's not what I want. But they're not going to tell you that. They're just like, oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll call you. No, they won't. They're just trying to be polite. Right? And they'll walk away. Okay? Because they're thinking, what's in it for me? So how do you get through that? Well, if they're always thinking, what's in it for me, then what do you need to do? You need to understand what they want and then give it to them. And how do you do that? You do it by asking questions. Okay? Now, this is your purpose statement, and this is something that you're actually going to create for homework as well. Permission statement, or sorry, purpose statement. It starts off with permission, okay? Moves to process and questions, and I'll get this all out so you guys start right in. Solutions, agreement, decision, okay? Investment, action, and finally permission again. So what does this all mean? Okay. What does this all mean? You should have a purpose statement. So every salesperson has a purpose, right? We talked about that before. Whenever you're going in and talking to someone, you should have some form of purpose. That's why you're trying to help them buy. If you have a purpose of what you're trying to do, right, you need to start off by asking them or talking to them with a purpose statement. So when I come in to anybody, sitting down with them, I start off and asking permission. Would it be okay to outline what our process is for you today? And the person goes, sure. So I'm asking their permission. Okay, good. Well, the process is this, and then I go into a whole lot of questions. Right? So when I'm looking at this, when I actually tell people right up front, I usually say, would it be okay if I outline what we had to do today? And they say, oh, yeah, sure. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and we're going to ask you a whole lot of questions. And I'm just giving you mine, so everybody understanding that. Just giving you what I do. I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions about your business and about what's going on so I can understand it a little bit better. Then what's going to happen is we'll talk about the process of how coaching works. I'm going to give you a couple solutions of how we work with people, right? Then if it's okay at that time, we're going to talk about the agreement, right, and the decisions we have to make and commitment to move forward. We'll talk about the investment, and then I'll ask you if that works for you. And then today, would it be all right if we go along that line and we can make a decision today? Right? Action and then permission again. And they usually say, sure, good. So just so you know, I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to give you the solutions. We're talking about the agreement, investment. We're going to take action today. You're going to make a choice today. Right? And they said, yeah, is that okay if we go along that line? They said, sure, perfect. Then I get right into my sales process, which is asking a whole bunch of questions and doing all that stuff. So that's my purpose statement. So for you guys, what is your purpose statement? You can use these guidelines, and you come in and say, take Jen for a second. You come in and say, okay, perfect. So just to make sure I understand, would it be all right if I laid out the process, how we're going to do it, give you some solutions, and we can talk about it, investment and budget and everything else, and we'll leave today with a plan. Is that all right? Perfect. Good. So, and then you jump right into that and say, all right, we're going to do this, 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 this. You need to find, those are kind of typical ones. You need to mix that one up a little bit, but you need to understand what is your sales process? What is your purpose statement? Where are you going to get the most positioning of what you expect of your clients before it happens? I use the example of one of my clients went in with their client, and they should have went in and positioned and saying, hey, this could take 10 hours, this could take 2. We're going to go in, we're going to check it all out, understand it. It might take 2, right? And if that's the case, right, solutions, agreement, would it be okay? Are you willing to pay for that and take action on that today? And they say yes or no. And if they say no, then perfect. Then we give them to someone else, because then it'll be someone else's problem. Because the other person will go, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And then they'll lose the money rather than us. Right? And that's kind of the key. Does this make sense of coming up with a purpose statement? It's about what do you actually go in and describe of what you're going to do. right? So that people are very, very comfortable and can move forward. Okay? This one's always a good one, right? Making sure you're checking authority. The big one is who other than yourself, okay, will be involved in making this decision. Because the worst thing you can do is you can go through all that information and all through the process, and they say, you know what, I just need to run it by my wife. And you're like, so why wasn't she here today? Okay, and in my mind, I'm always like, I need to make sure that they're there. You know, specifically, I use that with you guys. You know, talking with you first, Elizabeth, saying, I'm not going to deal with you. I'm going to deal with all three of you to understand where you're at and where your commitment level's at. Because if this is going to work, you need commitment from everybody. So who other than yourself needs to be involved in this decision? Now, for you, you don't have to do it, unless it's something major. Right? But sometimes you're dealing with, you know, do you have to run this by your boss? You know, I don't know. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about that one, right?
No.
Good. It's not a fun one to worry about. So if you don't have it, it's even better. But you guys both do. All right, so finances. Obviously, finances are very important. Can I ask what the, see, told you it was coming. All right, can I ask what the budget is? You've set aside for this purchase. Right? You have to ask. You've set aside some money for what you're asking me for. You know, what are you thinking of budget? What are you wanting to spend? Right? Because I want to make sure I give you the best option. It could be cheaper or it could be more. I don't know because we need to find out a little bit more. But I need to understand your budget so we at least get into the ballpark. All right. After you reach emotion and gather information, based on what you've told me, Trevor, right, either X solution or Y solution will suit you. So now we're going down into the funnel, right? You start off with open-ended questions, and then you move on to a little bit more specific. Now you're getting into solutions. So based on what you've told me, from what I understand, right, which one of these two solutions would work best for you? Okay? You're looking at this one. Because now you're taken and you've expressed that I've listened to you, I'm trying to understand what you're wanting, and this is what I'm coming up with. Right? Then you check their temperature. Okay? And then ask, you know, detailed questions after that. So how do you do that? How do you check their temperature? Right? I'll wait till everybody kind of gets some of that down. Do you guys need to go back, or are you guys good? Can I move forward?
I'm fine.
Okay, good. So you check the prospect's temperature. So you look at temperature checking. How does that fit with what you had in mind? Right? So you give them option A, option B. Okay, which one do you want to do? And this, I mean, I'm making it very general because we're talking about 3 different companies, but you guys are seeing how you can use this in your business, right? You just, I mean, for you, it's just like, hey, do you want to do this or you want to do that? We can add in an extra and make sure that that's good. Which one are you thinking? Yeah, let's go with that one. But you always add in a little upsell to that one, just a little bit more, then you keep the normal one. But it's better to come with 2 solutions than it is with 1. A lot of times we come back with, this is what they asked me to do, this is what I'm offering, but you should offer 2 things. The best one that we have, right, is even if we go after them, we're always going to get some form of objection. The best objection is the one you never have. But you need to understand and look at all of your sales process and look at how many objections do you have and what objections do you have. Are you getting a lot of money objections? Are you getting a lot of time objections? Are you getting a lot of can't afford it? Are you getting a lot of no, I don't want to do that now? Or you go, you know, whatever the objection is to whatever's going on, you need to understand, realize, and then facilitate that question. And you should be able to put it into your sales process before it ever gets there. So if you're getting a lot of budget or money questions or objections, going, oh, this is way too expensive, it's because you didn't bring up the budget question in the sales process. Does that make sense? The best objection is the one that's solved in the questioning process, in the sales process. Okay. Most importantly, okay, is the assumption of the sale. Whenever you go in, you need to assume that you're going to make the sale. Right? So Jen, when you go in timid, that's not assuming the sale. Right? You need to go in there believing wholeheartedly, this is mine. I'm going to help this person buy? Confident. Right? Not cocky, but confident. If you go in there with confidence and assuming the sale, it's going to come across. The other one is you're already saying, like, not a problem. When we get started, all your vocabulary changes when you're assuming the sale. Not if we get started, when we get started. And you're going to start speaking like that, which is a big difference. Because if you start speaking like, when we get started and take care of that, yeah, we'll look at that and that and that and that. Whereas, well, if we get the job, and if we can come in, well, we might be able to. Total bad vocabulary. Total bad communication. You're not assuming the sale at all. Okay? We need to make sure that the words that we use are in direct relation to what we want to get. And assuming the sale is going to lead us to those proper words. Okay? Now, the best way to get information out of a person is silence. So what example do you guys have of someone using this technique to get more information out of people? I can fill in that blank spot because that blank spot makes everybody feel uncomfortable. And whoever speaks the first loses. Right? Yeah. Right? And that's okay with your wife. You're fine with that one, to a point, I guess. But with a customer, you want them to break first, right, when you're actually talking to them. I'm just trying to give you guys a whole bunch of tools that you can use throughout your sales process. Because you're like, how do I sell? How do I become more a professional salesman? All these key points are what's going to help you make you a better and better and better salesperson. Right? It's amazing what silence does. Because someone just always cracks, and you just wait. And I always laugh and always wonder, like, who's going to break? And Trevor, you broke. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. Okay. So, a couple more in here. Being professional. So these are some stuff. I'm just going to bring them all up so you guys can write them down if you want. I might have got too many up here. Yep. No. There we go. Okay. So, being professional, right? These are some key tips about being a professional salesperson. Once again, remember I said the USP of one of my clients is answering the phone. The other one, he has a very good professional sales kit or estimating folder. Okay? So, develop a sales kit. Make sure that you have all your information, maybe testimonials in there, maybe your regulations, your certifications, the contract, frequently asked questions, pictures of jobs that you've done, whatever it is in there that just looks professional, and put it in a nice folder. Right? You need to look professional when you're a salesperson. The one thing about the trades is they just write it on a napkin and slide it across the table. This is the price. And you're like, okay, so if you're writing on a napkin, are you really going to do a good job on my house? Right? So have a good develop a sales kit. Make sure you specifically wear a blue suit. No, just kidding. Dress well, blue suit. There we go. That makes it. This is just overall sales stuff. You guys don't have to wear a suit. But for you guys, what is your suit? Blue coveralls, make sure. But if you're selling, you need to make sure that you're tidy. Right? And even to the point if you don't do coveralls, you do the coverall pants, tucked in polo, your name logo on it, things like that. Just makes it look a little bit more professional, so people go, right, rather than coming out all greasy and dirty and, hey, what's going on? Right? Gotta watch that. Always be on time. Always be on time, especially for a sales appointment, okay? Keep in touch. Make sure you always call them back. Pre-frame a prospect. That means call them before you come out and see them. Pre-frame, pre-qualify. right? Like generally, we were talking about, checking their budget, make sure that they understand what the heck you're doing before you drive all the way, right? And that just takes a quick little phone call. Say, hey, just want to go over your thing. What are you looking at doing? Is it a new house? Is it a renovation? Right? We'd like to just set up a time, come out and see you. Could be very simply put in that sales process and get it all done. Pre-frame a prospect. Do your homework. Make sure you know what's going on and where things are at. Right? And keep testimonials. Other key things, build rapport. Okay? Find what's most important to your prospect. Always follow up. Ask for referrals. Send thank you cards and be consistent. Right? Other key things. Becoming very professional in what you're doing. And when you're looking at this stuff, once again, you need to adapt whatever's on the screen here to your business. How can you build a better rapport? How can you get more information on what are important from your customers? Okay? How do you follow up better? Maybe you put in a process to follow up. You can have anything you want in life as long as you find ways to give others what they want. Okay? You can have anything you want in life as long as you find ways to give others what they want. So find what other people want or need, and you just professionally help them to buy it. Does that make sense? Good. I want to make sure this one was locked in really, really hard, because a lot of beliefs I heard kind of flowing around today around what's going on. I wanted to make sure I challenge them and get them to a point where you guys are really nailing this stuff, understanding it, bang on, okay? You can have anything you want in life as long as you find ways to give others what they want. Okay? Give others what they want. Okay, just make sure you guys got it. Okay, got it? All right. So, homework, home fun, not homework, home fun. All right, this is fun. First one on homework, last month's homework. That's the number one. Make sure you actually go through your book and do the things that you need to do and work through that process, okay? Helps you to understand it. All right? Now, second thing, was this beneficial today? Did you guys get a lot out of today? Understanding, remember, it's got to incorporate it into your business. So, homework, what do we want to do? Type of a list of questions for your question funnel. Remember I said there's who, what, when, where, and why? It's having all those questions. What questions are you going to ask to better understand your clients, right? Needs, wants, and desires, so then you can fulfill them. Right? And everyone here needs to come up with questions, and then just write down the questions of what you need to ask them. Is it budget? Is it time? What are they looking for? Maintenance, future dates, booking in later, budget, whatever the questions you need to ask.
And they have to be generic enough to cover service calls or material sales or...
Start open-ended, generic, and then get into specific stuff as well. But I mean, once you get into it, yeah, get down to specific on different trains. We build scripts that, you start with generic, and then if it's down this train, then you start asking, all right, service call. You have all those questions for service call. All right, new home construction. All right, whatever it is, you have your trains. You start generic, and one of those questions is this a maintenance call, or is this a, new home, or what are we looking at doing? And then you go down your pathway. Okay, does that make sense? No, just no. Yeah, perfect world would be fun, but no, just get questions out. As many questions as you can out, right? Just the more questions you have, the better way you can keep control of it. It's just like dealing with your kids, right? If you don't know the questions to ask your kids, you're going to miss something, right? But if you ask them, you're going to catch it, especially if you write them down. Type out a purpose statement for you and your sales team. Okay, that's just making sure and I'm going to add to that, just have a purpose or a positioning statement that you're going to use when you come in first contact with your clients. Okay. All right, next one. Identify and map out your sales process. So we talked a little bit about that today, not too much. What I just do is I use a brain mapping technique or a pictorial graph where you say, client calls, draw a circle. Now what? We ask them questions. Now what? We book a appointment for an estimate. Now what? We go do the estimate. Okay, now what? We make a follow-up call. Now what? We give them the estimate, right? Just map it all out. Just draw out what's your sales process of all your touch points with your clients in your sales process. Because if you do that, then now you can build the sales process, and the better you systemize your sales process, right, the easier it is for someone else to follow. Right? If you hire a secretary, Trevor, now you have it all laid out. What do you need to do? They just follow it. And then you can find your blind spots and your gaps in your sales process as well. Because if you start looking going, man, we're losing everybody at this point. Why? Oh, because you're trying to give a quote over the phone. You're not actually going out to see them. Ah, draw another circle. Go out and see client. Right? Next one, make follow-up calls. But in sales call, make sure you position and ask the question, when are they going to make a decision? All right, last one. Actually, you don't have to do this one. I was going to say 10 full telephone performance standards. All right, just remember, the phone is the most important thing. Right? So make sure you smile before you pick up.